Luke's good news on forgiveness.
I want to share with you probably the most difficult thing that I have had to walk through and continue to walk through in the journey with God. And it's something that I'm loved that you're in the book of Luke. Luke has a way of looking and pulling out certain details that none of the other gospel writers catch. And you can tell the heart of the gospel writers, or any writer really, by the stories they tell of what they experienced with Jesus. Because the greatness you see in others is a reflection of the greatness that's in you. And when you look at Luke, one of the main things of Luke is this theme of forgiveness. Forgiveness is really easy to talk about and hard to live out. I think it's something that we believe in with our head, but our heart has a hard time engaging the process of really letting go and releasing. What I love about Luke is he kind of reveals his heart for like society's outcasts. Because as you read through his stories, whether it's an outside status was a result of sinful conduct, whether you're a prostitute or a tax collector, or culturally defined by some condition, whether you were blind, you had leprosy, your nationality, maybe your gender. He saw the marginalized people, and he saw the people that were excluded, and he reached out with God's mercy to break through all the religious forms and things that kept them from actually getting to Jesus. What I like about Jesus is he gets angry every once in a while. That makes me feel like, oh, this guy gets it, right? He started his ministry and ended his ministry throwing his toys out the cot at the temple, okay? He gets upset. But when you look at that passage, which is amazing, is that when he throws his toys, he's angry. All the religious people, they scatter. But then the marginalized, they are drawn by his anger. They start coming toward him, and the religious kind of scatter. There's something even in when he's angry, it's attractive to the marginalized, to the people that are outside. Luke wrote a lot about what he loved about Jesus. It was a celebration of the best of who Jesus was, but it's the best of who Luke was. And in that, you see this theme coming out that kind of exposes Luke's heart. And one of them is the forgiveness in the mess of life. In Luke chapter 7, verses 36 to 50, you've got this act where the woman is coming at the feet of Jesus in front of very religious people, knowing they've got to do all the right things for the wrong reasons. That's pretty much what religion is. And as she starts to wipe with her tears and his perfume on his feet, he turns to them because he can tell they're already judging her. She's already an outcast. But there's something inviting about Jesus. And so as she comes and she's doing this wonderful thing, he says, hey, none of you didn't welcome me, Simon, into your home, but look what she has done. And then at the end of it, he says, you're forgiven. Your faith has made you well. Go in peace. You know what forgiveness does? It releases peace. It releases peace into situations that are unsettled and maybe undone in the journey of life. And in it, there's this word for forgiveness. There's a couple words in the New Testament for forgiveness, but one of them means to be dismissed of the debt and that I'll never bring it up again. So what Jesus is saying to the woman is, other people might know you have a reputation, but I will never bring this up again. Your faith has made you well. Go in peace. So she doesn't have to look over her shoulder all the time about, oh, what are people saying? What are they thinking? Jesus said, I took care of that. Not only that, but forgiveness restores dignity. In Luke chapter 8, verses 26 to 39, I love this. Jesus tells the guys to get in a boat. Now, I'm telling you, if I'm not a disciple, I don't know what these dudes are thinking. I'm not getting in a boat with Jesus. No way. Nothing ever good happened in a boat. Whenever they got in a boat, it was hectic. I'm walking. But they get in the boat. Oh, bless their hearts. They go to one side at night. They arrive on the other side, and do you realize they got to the other side for one dude, a demon-possessed guy who was naked. One guy they got in a boat for. This talks about the heart of the Father and the heart of Luke and what he sees in this outcast guy who is discarded, who nobody wants to be around him. I mean, he's naked. And then the next thing you know, Jesus speaks. The enemy legion flies into pigs. Next thing you know, you got a pork belly dive into the ocean. All the pigs are hanging out there. And the next thing you know, everyone's astonished when they come out. And one of the things that Luke says that the people notice is he had clothes on. Where'd the clothes come from? Man, forgiveness is an action that covers us. Jesus is saying to this guy, I know you're naked and you got all this stuff, but I want to cover you. I want you to know that forgiveness brings a covering of protection on our lives. And when we walk in unforgiveness, you are coming out from the protection and the covering of what that forgiveness gives to us in relationship with Christ. Some of us even blame the enemy for some of the stuff you're going against, but if you've got unforgiveness in your life, you're uncovered. And he comes and covers this guy and restores dignity. Forgiveness restores dignity. Not only that, forgiveness also welcomes the broken. I love the story of the prodigal son. And actually, it shouldn't be the prodigal son. It should be the prodigal father. Because prodigal means to recklessly and extravagantly and lavishly bless someone. It really is about the prodigal father. This is all about the father. But what I love about this story is that he recognizes, hey, I need to go back home. But he got to the place where the pain was greater to change than to stay the same. I want you to know, I don't know why God uses pain in relationships. I mean, you got to talk about relationships when you're talking about forgiveness. I mean, we go around the world and you got these YWAM communities and everybody in the world loves talking about community. They love it because they've never lived in it. Okay, I want you to know, community sounds really sexy until you live in it. And in this son recognized the pain gets greater, like, I can't live this one. And the father, in celebration, in the midst of it, goes out and celebrates the brokenness of his son and celebrates it with this big feast, but he also cares about his older son. See, the older son goes out, and then the father goes out to his son who will not come in. You know what forgiveness does? Forgiveness goes out to those who will not come in. It has a way of understanding the struggle of those of us that it's not working out the way we thought it would work out. It's not what we had hoped for. And in that, I find that we don't often have the rhythm of celebration when forgiveness is released. We should celebrate. We should celebrate that now, whatever's been apart, now there's a sense of home again. And we should celebrate this really, really well and mark it like stones of remembrance so that we can draft off of those stories for the next place and the next time. Because you know, most of the people that you have to forgive, they live pretty close to you. I don't know about you, but I got 6 kids. And when I was disciplining them, I'm like, where did you get this from? And then I look at myself and I realize they came by it quite honestly. You know the kids that you struggle with the most? They're the most like you. Oh, man. But when we start to celebrate our differences, that is forgiveness too, because it's releasing, and that's what happened with this prodigal son. From a prodigal father, that we lavishly and extravagantly bless and celebrate when two come together. Oh. The other thing is forgiveness. I don't think we often talk about it. It's a journey. In Luke chapter 17, he recites the Lord's Prayer, the same as the Lord's Prayer in Matthew chapter 6. And in it, he says, forgive my sins, and then I'll forgive others. There's an economy here that we need to understand. We cannot give away what we don't receive. Freely, freely receive, freely, freely give. And even with that woman, when Jesus, he's wiping the feet, he says, listen, The one who has been forgiven a lot, what do you think? Are they going to actually forgive a lot? Much? They are. In the same way, if you find it difficult to forgive and let go and release and not bring it up again, perhaps it's because you haven't been forgiven and you have not let the Lord forgive you in the places that he wants to bring release. Forgiveness is something we receive so that we can freely give it. And in this Lord's Prayer, it's the reminder also that it's a journey. And I'm going to kind of unpack that a little bit in a second. So forgiveness is in journey. The past is about forgiveness. It only takes one person. You don't need two people to forgive. The present is about reconciliation. It takes two people. And the future is about trust. So when we look at the past, some of us that maybe we struggle unforgiving, we will continue to have that open loop in our spirits and our minds, and the conversations will keep on going, and we stay in the past. But you know what forgiveness does? It releases us from the past, and we start moving forward. C.S. Lewis said that forgiveness is like a jungle gym. And as you're doing the jungle gym, you got to let go of one so that you can go forward. Forgiveness is letting go of that one so that you can move forward and not be stuck. And I want you to know, when you're stuck, everybody around you is stuck. If you're a dad in a home and you're struggling forgiving, you're stuck, and so is your family. Because it has a collateral damage of grace, but it also has a collateral damage within the context of our relationships. So it only takes one to forgive to set a prisoner free and discover the prisoner was actually you. Forgiveness is really, I want it to be about them, but it's really about us. Forgiveness also has no enemies. In Luke 23:24, Luke is the only one to mention this prayer, that Jesus said, forgive them because they don't know what they're doing. This, and actually, Luke says it's the first thing he said on the cross when he was put up there. Some say this was added later by others that added to the manuscripts. But that doesn't really ring true then when you go to the book that also Luke wrote in Acts in chapter 7 when Stephen was being stoned. He looked up to heaven and he said about the same thing, forgive them because they don't know what they're doing. And what Luke is kind of bringing out here, the idea that forgiveness is a release that declares, I don't have any more enemies. In fact, you want to know the best thing you can do for an enemy is forgive them. It'll tick them off. It will. And when we forgive, one of the things I learned, I was a youth pastor. Sorry, Joran, I'm going to beat you up for a minute. I used to travel with all these young people, and I would say at these camps, you need to write a letter to your dad and ask for forgiveness. Forgive him. Just to release your dad, because there were a lot of dad issues. And so they write these letters, and they give them their dad, and then all of a sudden one kid came back crying, and I go, what's wrong? Well, I gave the letter to my dad, and he blew up at me. I go, what? He's like, this is what he said. Who the hell do you think you are telling me that you forgive me? I put a roof over your house, your head. I took clothes. I've taken care of you. What are you talking about? And then I realized forgiveness is an action that goes well beyond words. Sometimes we want to forgive somebody. The best thing we do is just live it out without declaring it and bringing it out in the open. Just live a life of forgiveness and release. And so I want to land to kind of pull it together for a second in two passages. In Matthew 6, 12, 14, and 15. You've got this thing where Jesus is saying, pray the Lord's Prayer. And in the Lord's Prayer, it's forgive us our debts or trespasses. So to understand those, trespasses, there's a line there, a boundary. And when I cross it, the trespass, I create a debt. And it's a debt that we owe. And in Matthew 5, it says, hey, if you want to go pay that debt, go ahead and pay the debt, but you're not going to be able to. It's enormous. You're not going to be able to pay that debt. So when that debt occurs in that place, he's saying, I want you to forgive your debtors just as I have forgiven you. Forgive is a huge thing. But then he adds this little kind of addendum to the forgiveness. Sorry. In verse 14, he says, "For if you forgive other people when they sin against you, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if you do not forgive others their sins, your Father will not forgive your sins." What does that mean? I mean, I asked Jesus into my heart. His blood covered me. I received the sacrifice of the one who paid the debt in full. It is done. I paid it all. So why in the world are you telling me then, if I don't forgive my brother or sister, you're not going to forgive me? What does that mean? See, if we don't understand there are two kinds of forgiveness in the New Testament. One is a salvidic forgiveness. It's the forgiveness of Jesus on the cross, paid it all, righteous for the unrighteous to bring us to his Father. All the debt has been paid. Got it? But then there's a second forgiveness in the New Testament, and it's a relational or a family forgiveness. And it's really important to understand these when you're reading a scripture like this, because what he's talking about here is relational or family forgiveness. Now, the perfect picture of this is in John 16. Here we are at a meal. The dude is always eating. I love Jesus because he loves food. Okay, and he's eating, and all of a sudden he gets up and he's going to wash their feet. And man, I'm telling you, if we didn't have Peter, I wouldn't learn half as much about life without the testimony and the ups and downs and the mess of Peter. I love the dude. What does he do? No, you can't wash my feet. Then Jesus says this, "Hey, Peter, you're not going to understand this right now, but I need to wash your feet." What Jesus is tipping off here that Peter doesn't get, there's a deeper meaning to the washing of feet at this meal than what Peter understands. I'm saying there's a bigger deal going on here, but you got to let me do it. And Peter says, "No, you can't wash my feet." And then Jesus says, "Well, if I don't wash your feet, you're going to have nothing to do with me." What kind of forgiveness is he talking about there? Family relational forgiveness. You're not going to have any part of me. You might have union with me, but the communion part's going to be a little messed up. So then Peter says, "Well, I think I need to be a part of you. So just give me a bath, wash me all over." And I think Jesus just laughs. "No, Pete, you don't get it, dude. You don't need a bath, because once someone has had a bath, they don't need to be washed again. They're already clean." Salvidic forgiveness. But you do need to get your feet washed. That is relational or family forgiveness. Because we walk through life and we pick up judgments and we start to do everyone's inventory and we start to compare and get our joy robbed from us. And he says, "Man, I need to wash your feet, because when I wash your feet, the stuff you picked up that puts this thing between us, you were made for communion with me, not just union." So when you get this picture of salvidic and relational forgiveness and you go back to this, you realize what Jesus is talking about. He's talking about, hey, you're saved. You don't need to get a wash. You don't have to get a bath every time you sin and get stuff on your feet, but you do need to get your feet washed, because I'm a holy God and I love you and I paid it all and I took the hit so that you and I could do life on life together. Heart to heart, life to life, spirit to spirit. That's the forgiveness part restores that. And then he kind of pulls it out even more in the book of Matthew. And this is where I really want to push it out. I'm going to move this. Matthew 18. Peter comes to him and says, "Well, hey, how many times should I forgive? Like 7 times 70? Does that mean that when you're dealing with somebody and you get to the 491st time, you cut them off? Or could it be actually Jesus was saying that forgiveness is a journey? It's a journey. And in that journey, you might have to pick up and lay down that thing, that person that you forgave 490 times. I remember the day in my mid-30s, my dad had already been dead for like 15 years, but he still had power over me from the grave. And when you do not forgive somebody, they have power. You've just given them power, and you've just made yourself a victim. And now I know some of you have been really hurt and victimized, but if you want to live the victim life, you're going to keep on holding on to it. And as long as you do it and you say, they're going to pay for what they did to me, guess who pays? We do. So then Jesus tells this story. And this is just like a really cool story. Steve, can I borrow you for a quick? You're going to be the landowner. You're going to be the king. I want you right here. You're going to be right here. And then, yeah, right there. That's really good. Now, you two guys, I need you guys to come here. Okay. Now, this scripture talks about, oh, man, you guys are ripped. Gosh, is there any scrawny people out there? Okay, so you guys, I'm not going to touch you. You can go over there. All right, I'm definitely not touching you. Okay, so the scripture says that you owe a lot of money. Actually, this scripture, when they've calculated, it's pretty much between $3 and $4 million. So when the guy says, oh, I'm going to pay you back, he's actually revealing that his heart isn't that genuine because he knows he can't pay it back. He's just offering to pay it back. And you owe this guy a lot of money, and you come to him and you plead and ask for just release me from this debt.
Please release me from this debt.
Okay? And you buy him a coffee.
3 or 4 million.
That's an expensive coffee. Okay, then what you do is you release him.
I release you from your debt. Thank you.
Okay, and then, okay, you can go over here, King. Okay, then you go, come over here. You go and find some dude that owes you about 3 months' wages. Okay, he doesn't owe very much, and you come to him and say, you got to pay me back. Come on.
He owes you more than he's my son.
Oh, geez. Okay, sorry, I didn't mean this to be that real.
Well, you got to pay me back.
Yeah, we have a prayer counseling session afterwards. He's starting to shake. This is just too real. Okay.
So you got to pay me back.
Okay. Yeah. And you plead for mercy and say, "Can't you release me?" No, you got to do better than that. Come on.
Release me, please.
No,
please.
You're pleading.
Please, release me.
Come on, Dad.
Please, Dad, please.
Okay. Then your dad, no, the other guy, not your dad, you're so upset, you grab him by the neck and start choking him. No, you choke him. And because he can't pay you, the tradition is he is thrown into debtor's prison. Okay? And you feel pretty good about that. Yeah, so you're over here, and Janet, come here. Come here. Yeah. Okay? And when you get thrown in debtor's prison, you didn't know, you didn't care. He's got a wife. Okay? He's got a wife. And he's got 2 sons and a daughter. Come here, all you guys. Yeah, all you guys, all 3 of you. You got 2 sons and a daughter, right? Okay, right here. And then not only do you have like 2 sons and a daughter, get her closer, you're part of family. Okay, then you also have, come here, I'm gonna grab you. You also got a giraffe, and you got, come here. Yeah, and you got a cow, and so when you throw him in debtor's prison, everyone in his family is thrown in debtor's prison. King, where are you? Come back. You hear about what he's done to this guy that owed very little, very manageable debt. And you call him in. And you give him the what for because you forgave him so much and he's whatever. Go ahead, say what you want to say.
Dude, I forgave you and look what you've gone and done to all these guys.
Okay, so what happens is he gets thrown in debtor's prison. His whole family is also in debtor's prison. So Jesus says, unless you forgive from your heart, you also will not be forgiven. What kind of forgiveness is he talking about? Relational family forgiveness, not salvidic. But I want you to see the collateral damage that can happen from unforgiveness. That suddenly one guy holding on imprisons a man, his wife, his 2 sons, his daughter, his giraffe, his cow, and his goat. And then he also gets to dinner with his wife and his 3 daughters and his elephant. There's something about this picture that really bothers my sense of justice. He just ends the story. Whoever does this, okay? I'm not going to forgive you if you don't forgive and you don't release and you don't let go. Because the more you bound up other people, you're bound up. So, what's wrong with the picture? Where's the injustice in this whole picture? What do you think? This guy should be in debtor's prison, right? He owed a lot. But look at his unforgiveness and holding on, how it affects his family and his downline, and how it can affect neighborhoods and cities and nations. But this guy owned very little. I don't know about you, but I think he should be released. But one man's holding on to what he thinks his just reward is for the wages that need to be paid. It keeps him and his whole family in debtor's prison. Okay, you guys may be seated. You guys did an awesome job. Michael, never forgive me again for being the elephant. I think we think that we think. Do you know what I mean? We think forgiveness is just a personal thing. Forgiveness affects all of our relationships. It leaks out on all of our relationships. And when we hold on to unforgiveness, then it will root itself into bitterness. And I think some of you know the definition of bitterness. You take the poison and expect the other person to die. That unforgiveness traps generations. It traps and puts in prison those that desperately want to be free. You know what forgiveness does? Free people, free people. Nelson Mandela, who we call Madiba, when he left Robben Island, he said, if I don't leave my bitterness and my unforgiveness behind in that yard, I will enter another prison. See, we're free people, but when we hold on to stuff, we imprison ourselves. And here's Jesus. Some of us have been hurt badly. And you know what Jesus is saying? With salvidic forgiveness to restore relational and family forgiveness, Jesus is saying this: can I be guilty for them? Can I be guilty for you? Because the hardest person that we can forgive is ourselves. But until we receive that, we can't give it away. And we hold on to that indictment when Jesus is saying, can I be guilty for you? Because I don't want just a union with you. I want communion. That's what we're made for. Forgiveness is so releasing, so empowering. So as I close, I want to bring a real life testimony. Our oldest daughter was our most rebellious. And we had just joined YWAM and resigned from the church we were at, and we moved 3,000 miles away to the other side on the East Coast from the West Coast. One day, Sierra called us up and said, hey, my boyfriend and I, Bud, we want to come and we want to visit you guys. Well, Bud is he's a Dutch dairyman. And I don't know if anybody has worked on a dairy before, but that is a hard life. And so he worked early in the morning till late, got on a plane, flew all night to arrive early in the morning at New York City. And when we picked him up at the airport, we had 2 hours to get back to the base. Bud fell asleep. He was dead tired. And then Sierra put her head up between our 2 car seats And I could tell just by the way she was, I didn't know what was going on. Lynn already had a heads up because the Spirit had given her a dream about this. But Sierra said, I don't want you to be disappointed with me, but I'm pregnant. She said it with the guy in the back seat. We're in tears. I pulled the car over. I got out. I opened the back door. I pulled Bud out. And I shot him. No, I didn't. Sorry. That's my Tourette's. It just comes out. All we could say to Sierra in that car, it's going to be okay. Maybe you think you made a mistake, but that baby's not a mistake, and it's going to be okay. You're forgiven. It's going to be okay. I am convinced because she got the heart of the Father and the releasing power of forgiveness, it changed her life. She is a lover of Jesus today, passionately, sometimes too passionate. She wants to be so perfect. She's an amazing mother, amazing wife, amazing follower of Christ. Because in that car, she got something different than what she thought she would deserve. But isn't that what forgiveness is? We get what we don't deserve. And there's nothing you could do, good or evil, to make that forgiveness, of that relational forgiveness, that salvidic forgiveness, available to us right now. A couple days later, Bud took me out and he asked for the blessing to marry Sierra. And I already knew the Lord, I worked it through, I knew what I was going to say. So I told him, Bud, you're released. You're forgiven. I know you're going to be a part of the baby's life and Sierra's. I don't know what that's going to look like, but I do not want you marrying Sierra because you got her pregnant. I want you to marry her because you love her. And then he asked for my forgiveness. And he said, no, I love her and I want to marry her. Today, that baby is in her second year of university. 19 years. She's the most amazing Christian. She's the most amazing lover of Jesus. She astounds me. She is one of my favorite humans. You know why? She's under the canopy of grace and forgiveness her mom got 19 years earlier. Forgiveness releases generations. It releases families and neighborhoods. And Jesus is standing here today. Would you let me be guilty for the one that's hurt you? Will you let me be guilty for you? Because I want to bring freedom. I don't want anything between us. I want to tear down that wall, that demarcation that keeps you in the place where you just got stuff in your feet, and I just want to wash them. Let me wash your feet so we can have that intimate union that I died for. Let me get at least what I paid for. Let Jesus get what he paid for. Let forgiveness be a covering so we're not exposed. Let it be extravagant and lavishly celebrating. Let us restore dignity. Sometimes we just gotta command our spirits to attention when our heart just doesn't get it yet. Confess with your lips, believe in your heart. It's a journey. Like with my father, I remember the day in my mid-30s that I let go. I did. You know what happened? I woke up the next morning and I got it back. And I got it back, I picked it up like 3 times the next day, and I had to put it back down. Then I started picking up 3 times a week, and then 3 times a month, and 3 times a year, and now it's a memory pain because forgiveness is a journey. But what a beautiful, messy journey it is. It's the sweet bitterness that God gives us so that actually we could walk in freedom and joy and confidence and boldly come to the Father, as it says in Hebrews, and get mercy and grace in our time of need because we got our feet washed. Would you just bow with me in prayer? In the Old Testament, when somebody was going to be stoned, the stoning never took place until the first stone fell. And the first stone was held by the one who was going to be stoned. And it was usually pretty heavy, because when they let it go, it was their admission, yeah, you got to carry this out. I blew it. Some of us have been carrying huge stones, huge weights, trying to pay the wages for something that has already been paid. So, Father, I pray that today there would be a release to receive grace from you and mercy now. Just even give us the first moments of stepping into a faith that we don't know what's on the other side, because we've only known the hatred and the disappointment that this person has brought into our lives. We're not sure, what are we going to do without that conversation? Whatever that thing we're holding on to that we're enslaved and imprisons us. God, you're holding the keys. Bring freedom today. And in that freedom, whoever steps into it, Father, I pray the freedom would be watershed down through the whole family. Father, you're calling out men to let go so there can be a covering once again over the family and the celebration of relationship and intimacy. For moms who've laid aside everything to take care of the family, and they like their dreams and everything, and sometimes we just despise, like, am I just a domestic? Father, I pray you bring freedom and a release in the things that maybe we're holding on to, that just our body's even taking it on. The body keeps score. No wonder there's so much depression in the earth, because many say when we hold on to unforgiveness, it causes depression. Help us to get our hearts back. So come, the lover of our souls, and forgive us. Jesus, wash our feet. We want that communion with you. And give us the strength to let go of even the things that have been passed on to us. So in these moments, whether you want to come forward or to the back left where there's prayer, and you just want somebody to stand with you and to testify and a witness to letting go, I encourage you just to come forward. I would love to pray for you, and there's others that would love to pray. Or you can go in the back. So would you stand with me? And as we sing, if you sense you need to let go, put feet on it. Free people, free people. Yeah.
Thank you for joining us for the Good Life Community Church podcast. If you've got a moment, it would be awesome if you could follow, subscribe, or share this podcast around. It all really helps. Otherwise, I hope you have a fantastic week, and we'll see you later.